bench, and the defensive energy stepped up pretty early.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. It was a huge change. That was where the headlines were pregame, Griffin, and it turns into a Syracuse win. Maybe saves Adrian Autry's job for a couple more days. There was a lot of pressure in this game, and Syracuse does come away with a win, and an important win, I think.
Yeah, this game meant a lot. 5 losses in a row for the Orange. Hadn't happened since 69. Win today stopped that from happening. Adrian Autry said he wanted to shake things up, and he did. It was the Nate Kings game. No Cayenne in the second half. Our reporter, Milo Hoffman, will join us, and he was in the Dome. Will let us know if Donnie Freeman was maybe a little distraught by not getting the start today. It's the double overtime on WAER. Let's roll.
The game may be over, but our coverage on WAER is not. Here on the double overtime, we'll be breaking down all the highs.
Carlos kicks out. Freeman contested the 3. It doesn't matter. It swirls home. The horn sounds, and Donnie Freeman sends this team into the locker room jumping for joy.
Starling from the right wing gets down the lane. His righty layup goes, and the Orange lead.
He's calling all the way for it. Wants it on Suarez. Spins back to his right. Baby hook up, and it goes. And one. Eddie Lampkin rocks the baby around the three-point line.
And the lows.
100 matchups between Georgetown and Syracuse. A long 95-year history. The rivalry is alive and well, and today the victors is Georgetown.
Lowe slices through the defense, behind the back pass. Corhen sticks it up and in. A little razzle-dazzle from Jalen Lowe to Cam Corhen, and that one may be the dagger.
And thus ends the second season under Adrian Autry, and it finishes in the second round of the ACC tournament in 2025.
Delivering our hottest takes along the way.
But it just makes you wonder what is going on in practice, because each time that Adrian Autry takes the podium, it's a lot of, we're working on it.
We're getting better.
We're working on it. We're getting better. We're getting better. Well, sure, maybe in theory they're getting better.
They are, but
this is a fan base that needs you to be good now.
Say this about Syracuse basketball is crazy, because the brand of Syracuse basketball that I grew up knowing is so far distant from where this team is at now, but I mean, we could be talking about Syracuse at the bottom of the ACC.
I don't think this team makes the ACC tournament at this rate.
Get your voice heard by calling in at 315-443-2011 or check out our YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
Welcome into the double overtime on WAER. I'm Griffin Bloomstein. Alongside me is my partner, Luke Burgess, for the evening. We're taking you up all the way until 10 p.m., and the phone lines will be open all the way through it. 315-443-2011. You can get your voice heard and give your thoughts on whether this win gives you a little comfort or not. But we already got someone on the phone lines who wants to give their opinion. Lester from Liverpool, what you got for us?
Guys, it's great to win and all, but let's be honest, this doesn't change a thing. This win feels meaningless, honestly. Notre Dame stinks. So, the team did the absolute bare minimum tonight. So I get people are happy. They're standing up and clapping. You know, the team is fired up. But, honestly, where's our shame? We just lost 4 in a row, and we beat a team that stinks, you know, with Coach Boeheim back in the Dome. If we did anything short of what we did tonight, it would be an embarrassment. So, this doesn't change anything, and I think it's time to start thinking ahead. I heard the guy in the last show say this saved Autry's job for a few more days. You know, maybe, but if John Wildhack really had some guts, I think Autry would be out the door the very next game that they lose.
Yeah, Lester, to your point, Marcus Burton not playing tonight for Notre Dame as well, their best player. So Notre Dame even weaker than they normally would be. My question for you, I think it shows how quickly a fan base can turn from positive to negative just because of one game. And I'm certain that I don't think that the air around the entire fan base will be that everything is positive now because of one win. But I do want to ask you, if by some miracle Syracuse beats North Carolina on Monday, how would you feel then, hypothetically?
I mean, sure, you can stand and clap for that one. I mean, you deserve it if you can knock off North Carolina.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
I mean, how would I feel? I can't even answer that because it's not going to happen in a million years. And even if it did, I would be like, wow, the great win. Too bad you didn't lay the groundwork weeks ago and beat Boston College and beat Hofstra and beat Virginia Tech because it doesn't change anything. This team is going to have to go on an NC State-style run and win the entire ACC tournament to even be respectable.
Yeah, it's clearly frustrating, and I get your sense of frustration, Lester, because when Syracuse playing this game, I was asking myself, where was this a month ago? Where was this against the Clemson? Where was this in those ACC games that Syracuse has dropped, the last 4 games? I want to ask you one more question. Is there anything, maybe even besides going on the NC State run, because that was a once-in-a-million type of run, is there anything else that you think can save Syracuse this season or maybe can save Autry's job?
No, because about a month or so ago, I called you guys and I said that this season was tournament or bust for Coach Autry and this team, and I still believe that. And there's just no way they're getting into the tournament unless they win the ACC tournament, because other than that, they basically need to win out, and that's not going to happen either.
Thanks, Lester. Appreciate the call as always. If you want to get your voice heard just like Lester, you can do so. 315-443-2011. Griffin Bloomstein, Luke Burgess on the double overtime up until 10 p.m. The phone lines will be open the whole night. I mean,
it raises an interesting point, though, Griffin, because you have to start thinking, let's say, in a hypothetical world, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about what just happened in front of our eyes in this game, but if Syracuse were to go on and beat North Carolina or beat Duke, if they play a little bit better, is that even a conversation anymore? Is the season officially over, so to speak, outside of basically the miraculous? And, I don't think that it's completely off base to say that it is. I don't. I think you lose those games as bad as you lose, and you could almost consider good wins just as fluky as bad losses in some way. And I think that kind of balances out and says, hey, this isn't that great of a team.
Well, what gets to me is when it's not even fluky losses. They're stacking up at this point.
Oh, sure.
And if you're even questioning whether this team can go down and beat UNC in Chapel Hill or go down to Durham, it's not. And that's the point where we're at in this season, where us, as double overtime hosts, we can't even talk about if this team can beat some of those top 25 teams because they haven't showed it. Their only good win so far, Tennessee, they're out of the top 25. Tennessee's had a really tough time in the SEC. And if you go not starting this game, that was a surprise to all of us. Sadiq White, after he fouled out last game out, Coach Autry said, he was the only one trying. And then he quickly took back that statement after he realized what he just said. But those were his instant reactions to get to the game against NC State.
To be fair, to Sadiq White, again tonight, 19 minutes played, 4 fouls. He still struggles immensely playing defense without fouling. But I thought he had a positive impact at the start of the game, particularly on defense. That was kind of where my initial reactions were, and I think both of us watching the first 8 minutes of the game was that it did look a lot more like that. I think we'll always go back to that Houston overtime loss because of how good the defense was in that game, getting them to that point. I think people are going to use that game kind of as a benchmark, and it did look a lot closer to what we saw in that game than anything we've seen since, and maybe outside of the rest of that tournament in the game against Tennessee. But I felt like that faded at times. There certainly were dips, and Syracuse played really good offense in this game. When you look at the final tallies, they shot 40% from 3 and 57% from the field overall, which just hasn't happened lately. And I think you can know by a product that it's not going to be a super consistent thing.
No, not consistent, but we do have someone on the line, Mike from Syracuse. He wants to give his positive thoughts about the game. Mike, what you got?
Yeah, Mike here, Voice of Spectrum Sports. Colin, the first caller was a little bit negative. I didn't like that. I think that this team showed some things today where Donnie getting essentially a soft benching. The attitude of the team looked good. I think Donnie might be, like a rain cloud over the team and over the program. And it did suck seeing Tyann not get a lot of playing time in front of Dad, but I think Autry saved his job, and they might give him an extension tonight. I think that
I don't know about
may
that.
need
an extension.
You may need
Mike,
to
are you
extend
being
him.
facetious right now?
Well, the only other biggest bozo in the ACC is that Notre Dame coach. I don't know that guy. That guy
kept
was
his
a
cool
clown,
tonight.
and Autry was coaching circles around him. So if we could play someone like that every game, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think it's hard to say that Donnie's a dark cloud over the team when he's putting up double-doubles on a consistent basis. And, tonight he got benched, and clearly that affected the way that he played the game. He wasn't out there a ton for the entirety. When you look at all of his minutes on the night, he only played 22 minutes, and it's the first time he's been in single digits in a game that he's appeared in all season long. So
I don't think he's a winning player. Guys, I think we need winning players out there. Every time he touches the ball stops. It's like watching Carmelo, honestly. Like, the ball stops, and he doesn't pass, and when he does, he turns it over.
yeah,
like,
certainly Syracuse didn't
this
do
isn't the
anything
NBA.
notable the year that Carmelo Anthony was on the team.
Well, yeah, I meant like the professional Carmelo Anthony, not like Syracuse Carmelo. I mean, like Michael Porter Jr. Like he just doesn't pass.
All right, thank you, Mike, for the call. Really appreciate it. It was Donnie's season low in minutes as well, and so
1 for 4 from the field.
And so when you think about it, it was clear like Syracuse's defensive energy was different when Donnie was not on the floor to start the game. He didn't play the first 8 minutes. He checked in at 12:02. Which, we thought maybe he would get in at the under 16, but it took to the under 12. Like, that was the thing that I was looking for when Donnie Freeman was not on the floor. How was the defense? And then when he was on the floor, how was the defense? Because you know what you're going to get from Donnie offensively. Today, you didn't really get it. 7 points, 6 rebounds, 4 fouls. So when Donnie's not on the floor, everything kind of changes. And if you want to get your voice heard, like Mike, like Lester, the phone lines are going to be open. 315-443-2011. Griffin Bloomstein, Luke Burgess on the double overtime up until 10 p.m. You can also check out our live streams on YouTube and Twitter at W8ER Sports Talk. What is it about Donnie that you think made this change for Autry? Like, what was it?
Well, you'd have to think that there's something that's going on somewhat behind the scenes. Maybe not entirely. I'm sure it's partially due with the way that he's played on the court. But, I mean, I don't think that you can credit Donnie as the reason that the team isn't playing good defense. Maybe there are the intangibles. You go back and watch the tape a little bit more in a detailed fashion. You see things that are affecting negatively. But, I mean, Donnie not being on the floor has nothing to do with Nate George not turning the ball over tonight, with Syracuse shooting much better from three because Donnie Freeman's been a pretty high percentage three-point shooter.
Those Vegas games when Syracuse was playing such great defense against Houston and Kansas for that first half, it was the defense, and that was transitioning into easy offense, which is the basketball that Adrian Autry wants to play.
Yeah, it went away. It's not a style mesh, but I don't know that there should be no situation where a coach can't figure out a way to make a 6'9", high-scoring, high-rebounding NBA talent ineffective. And I mean, in my mind, that's just bad coaching.
I agree. I think that tells a little bit about the coaching. The fact that you have the most talented player on your team, I don't think that's a real argument.
No.
Donnie Freeman, the most talented basketball player that Syracuse has. And you can't get him to fit within your scheme offensively or defensively at times.
Maybe they get away with that tonight because you're playing a Marcus Burton-less Notre Dame team, but you're going to need Donnie Freeman's rebounding and scoring production, plus everyone else doing what they did tonight against North Carolina, against Duke on the road, who, by the way, I mean, is just dog-walking teams left and right. Virginia Tech put up a hell of a fight against them today, and they got their butts kicked. So, I mean, Duke's an unbelievable team. The rest of the schedule is really tough. That's been well covered. This was the easiest game left on the schedule.
By far.
And, yeah, I mean, another contributing factor to tonight is the fact that Nate Kings hits 5 threes and scores almost 30 points. I mean, that hasn't been happening.
You probably don't win this game if Nate Kings doesn't have 28 points because when J.J. Sterling was so good in that first half, 7 of 7 from the field, 3 of 3 from deep, and 17 points, 5 assists, no turnovers.
Yeah.
He was great. Second half,
Well,
JJ
the team only turned the ball over 6 times.
And
the
that's
entire
something
game.
that we can definitely give our applause to.
Yeah, no question.
The assist to turnover ratio is something that's been talked about around this team pretty often.
And maybe that is where not having Donnie Freeman on the court makes a bit of a difference, because
He had
when
two
you
of
have a
the
guy,
turnovers.
he's turned the ball over a lot. Number one, he had double-digit turnovers in 2 games. He turned the ball over 7 times against Boston College, and then went on to turn it over 4 times in the Virginia Tech game. But maybe when you don't have that, high-threat scoring presence that you feel like you need to get the ball to him out there, maybe that makes a bit of a difference. But once again, in my mind, that just comes back to the coach getting Donnie Freeman into situations where he isn't going to be double-teamed right away. He has a chance to work off the ball a little bit and score. And I want to quickly bring in some quotes from Adrian Autry that we're getting in live time right now, because we've got our reporter Milo Hoffman, who's going to join us later on in the show, who's currently at Autry's press conference. And, the first thing that was addressed is that Donnie Freeman started the game on the bench. The one that stands out to me is someone asked, do you expect to continue benching Donnie? And he said, not sure. Well, I mean, that's basically as good as yes, in my mind.
The other thing was, me and Donnie talked. That's what Milo said, that Coach Autry said. In the game, the matchups were better to start him on the bench. There shouldn't be a matchup where Donnie Freeman, whether in the starting lineup or on the bench, especially
he's like a physical mismatch against everyone.
Yes, there shouldn't be a mismatch in the offensive rotation against other teams' best players. Like, Donnie is supposed to be that guy.
Yeah.
And if he's supposed to be drafted,
I think he has shown that he is that guy.
People have him in first or second round of their mock drafts for next season.
Yeah.
And you can't have a guy like that come off the bench.
No, I think in the long run, maybe it's nice tonight because Syracuse won this game. But, I mean, Griffin, I don't even want to think about how loud the calls for change in this program would be if Syracuse had lost this game and Donnie Freeman only played 22 minutes. So, I mean, gambles are a part of coaching. You have to take gambles, especially when your team is not playing the way that they're supposed to be playing. But, I mean, Coach Autry better be thanking his lucky stars that this gamble paid off, because if you lose another game in the Dome, 5-game losing streak for the first time since the late 60s, and your best player sat half the game on the bench, then I do think that there would be some serious questions being asked. And that is kind of, honestly, it kind of holds over, it kind of floats over the entire energy of this game is, winning does solve everything. The critics are going to be a little bit more quiet for a couple days, but a few less days than they probably would be normally, because Syracuse plays on Monday rather than Tuesday this week.
That is true.
And they play, a really good NC State, or rather UNC team, ranked 16th in the country right now, before they go on the road to play Virginia. So 2 incredibly tough teams coming up, both on the road. And I don't really think that even after a 15-point win tonight, Syracuse fans have been given any reason to believe that the Orange have any chance in those games.
I think the 2 biggest things of this game specifically, J.J. Starling, strong first half, 17 points. Nate Kings, 20-plus points in the second half. Do you think Syracuse would have lost this game if they hadn't played really, really well? Share your thoughts. Call in 315-443-2011 is the number. Griffin Bloomstein and Luke Burgess on the double overtime up until 10 p.m. What J.J. Starling, was doing in that first half, he didn't miss a shot.
Yeah.
Like, the single reason why Syracuse was in control. Syracuse hadn't led the past 2 games. Notre Dame only led for a minute total this game. It seemed like Syracuse was in total control, and I think it was the tone that J.J. started with.
Yeah, I think you got to give a lot of credit to J.J. He only finished with 21 points after he had 17 in the first half, which, the first half was unbelievable. But I think when you score 17 and you go 7 for 7 shooting the basketball,
was this shades of J.J. from last year? Like
to finish with more? I don't know that J.J. Starling from last year was that impressive. The team was not good.
He was more impressive than he was to start this season.
Yeah, and maybe that's a byproduct once again of, he's
in a different role.
I would say when Donnie Freeman is not on the floor, the most naturally talented player out there. And I mean, I guess if you're counting physical attributes, then you could talk about William Kyle, but he can't score from anywhere that isn't under the basket. So I'm talking, in terms of the best scorer, best overall basketball player on the floor, when Donnie Freeman isn't out there, it's probably J.J. Starling. And maybe he benefited from that tonight. hard to say, honestly, because you don't know, why he felt so good shooting the ball. I mean, he's had open looks from three when Donnie Freeman's on the floor, and you wouldn't think that him not being out there really affects whether he can make an open three or not. I think it was just a good shooting night.
And that's the thing that just puzzles me about this team. And especially at the point that we are in at the season, where it's the end of January. It's the last day of January. It is almost February basketball, and there's no identity. Like, you don't know why Donnie was benched. You don't know what Syracuse can do to put the team in the best position to win.
Well,
and if you don't have that figured out by February,
I hearken back to what Adrian Autry said after the Binghamton game, the first game of the season, where he said, we're not going to lose games this year because of our shooting. We're going to win games because of our defense.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, and it's today, most of the games that they have won in the ACC is because they've shot the ball really well. Florida State,
from
which was their
Nate
last
Kings or Betsy. Or...
I mean, I'll pull up the numbers, but Florida State was their previous win before this one, which was played on the 13th of the month, and they shot the three ball great in that game. That was the reason why they won, because Florida State scored near 50 points in the second half. Syracuse shot 11 of 27 from three in that game. So that was the reason they scored the basketball at a high level. They shot 60% from the field when they have one game. Same thing with Pitt. They couldn't miss from three in the first half. Those are their last two ACC wins.
You shouldn't need to have a guy like Tyler Betsy or Nate Kings make 5 or 6 threes to win a game. Like that shouldn't...
And I don't think that that's what Adrian Autry wants either.
But that's been the case.
Exactly.
The Florida State game, Betsy had 6 threes. Tonight, it was Nate Kings attacking the rim. He had 5 threes from deep. You shouldn't have to have your 4th or 5th best scorer to pop off and have a great game for that to be the recipe to success.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say at the same time, I think there is some validity to, when you're in league play, you have to do what it takes to win. And I give credit to Autry for taking a gamble tonight, and it worked out. Clearly he saw something that he thought needed to be adjusted, because I don't think any of the people calling into this show or you or me would have suggested that benching Donnie Freeman for for half the game was the answer to Syracuse's woes when he just put up 24 points the other night and 10 rebounds. But, that's the benefit of being in the locker room and being a basketball mind, and those are the decisions that you expect your coach to make. And I think a lot of the reason why there's been so much frustration from the fan base is because they believe that Adrian Autry is not a problem solver as a coach, and the adjustments haven't been there. So today the adjustments were there, and there was a big change, and they win the game. So it's one game. I don't think you can take much from it because of the fact that Syracuse had lost 4 straight against some teams they probably should have beat coming into it. And now you're going to be tested on Monday, and if it goes right back to where it was before, I think the critics come back louder than they were at the beginning of the week.
For a road ACC game, especially in Chapel Hill, that's not the game that you bench Donnie Freeman again. Like,
I don't think I don't think you can do it.
If Autry benches Donnie Freeman,
he better come in the first whistle if he's benched. That would be the only.
And then what do you answer? Like, what do you say when Donnie Freeman starts on the bench and Syracuse hypothetically loses by 20? And then you just benched your best player to start the game.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying about the hypothetical for tonight's game. Is I think you take a risk as the coach of this team every time you bench Donnie Freeman, because if you lose the game, it's the easiest finger pointing possible. Like your best player didn't play half the game. Of course you lost. I mean, imagine if Duke went and benched Cameron Booser for half the game. I mean, it's
they could probably get away with it because they're Duke.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, I'll use a better example with Virginia Tech. I mean, imagine if they benched Avdalis with the production that he's given them this year because they were struggling and then they lost. I mean, it's the easiest thing to point to as a fan and say, well, there's a clear reason why you lost this game. Someone else could have easily figured that out. So I think the more that Donnie Freeman is on the bench, the higher the pressure is to win the game, because you better make it count if he's not playing.
We have Charlie from New York on the line. Charlie, are you a little upset about the way that this team and this season has gone, and does this game give you any hope for the rest of this season?
Well, I am definitely a diehard Syracuse fan, and I listen to the announcers, and sometimes I'm very dismayed by their enthusiasm for the team. But I got a couple of things to point out when you talk about Adrian Autry. I'm blind. I only listen to it on the radio. And what I hear on the game is Donnie Freeman comes in a couple of weeks ago, the second half of the game. He plays 12 minutes. He scores 18 points. But where the hell was he the first half of the game? He didn't score anything, but Syracuse lost. I look at the way J.J. Starling comes in. He plays half a game. Where is he the second half of the game? Can he shoot from the left-hand basket? He only shoots from the right-hand basket? I don't know. But the other thing is, let's put a lot of pressure on the team. Syracuse sucks because they can't shoot a foul. How many games have they lost this year because they can't shoot fouls?
That Houston one sticks out to me.
Yeah, but Charlie, Donnie Freeman is one of their best free throw shooters on the team. Statistics back that up. So when you bring up those two arguments to me, they conflict a little bit because, yes, Donnie Freeman's been inconsistent, I should say, but the whole team has been inconsistent. And they might have lost that NC State game by 30 if he wasn't on the floor. He's an 80% free throw shooter. You don't know who's going to show up to play.
That's true. Do you think that's a coaching fault?
Yeah, who do you blame that on, Charlie?
I was at athletics for a year and more individually in wrestling. But when I went out to wrestle, it was my mindset that decided whether or not I was going to win or lose. And it's J.J. Starling's, it's Nate King's, it's their mindset. If they gave up the last game. The second half, they stunk. And it wasn't the coach, it was the team. They just gave up. You can't do that.
If there's been a lot of giving up, though, can that be on the coach for not trying to motivate this team?
You can try to motivate a team all you want, but if you give up, you give up.
Thank you, Charlie.
You gotta have that willingness, that motivation, that gut drive to win. Not 20 minutes a game, but 40 minutes a game, right down to the last second. You have to want to win. You can't be 20 points ahead, and then the second half you lose the game because you've given up on scoring.
Well, thank you, Charlie, so much for the call. I agree with a lot of what Charlie had to say. And
I did too, but the change was evident tonight from Adrian Autry. Words are one thing. Adrian Autry actually said it himself. Words are one thing, but the actions are more important. He was pretty clear about that after the NC State game, and I think that tonight's pretty exemplary of that because he took some action. I don't know that it's necessarily what I would have expected him to do, and I don't think, the arguments are conflicting because you can't say that Donnie Freeman goes out and is useless for a half and then scores 18 or whatever and then complain about free throws because he's been one of the only guys who's shooting what you would expect him to shoot from the line. He's been a great free throw shooter this year. 82% right now.
He went 5 of 9 today, but we'll give him a little bit of a break because Syracuse did shoot.
No, this is worst game of the season, but heavily out of rhythm too. Changes your entire routine when you don't get out there to start the game.
And earlier in the season, when they lost to Houston, I was on the double overtime, and I was like, free throws are going to be the reason why they don't make the tournament. That's not the case anymore. I don't think we can be talking about free throws at all at this point of the season. The problems,
they shot 57%.
But still, the problems rely so much more
no question.
beyond the free throws.
Yeah, but it is a contributing factor. I think at that time you were just naive to the fact that there were a lot more problems the team was going to have to deal with. It wasn't so much that free throws weren't going to be something that would keep them out.
Jay from Baldwinsville loves to call into the double overtime. He's called in tonight. The lineup change was a little bit of a bizarre thing. Not a lot of people were expecting that. Jay, did you like the lineup change? Are you a little concerned about what Autry's decision-making?
Well, I think we could have seen that coming when earlier in the week and after the next game he said everything's on the table. Yep. And then specifically when a reporter asked about Sadiq White last game, he said he was the only one trying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now flash forward to this game. I think there's a reason why Donnie sat the first, the first 8 minutes of the
he checked into the game for the first time, 12:02.
Yeah. Secondly, guys, Kyan Anthony could be possibly one of the worst defensive players in the ACC. Autry tried him in the first half, and everybody's dazzled by the fact that he can get to the basket pretty well, and he's an offensive player, but he's a defensive liability out there, and I think that showed with the fact that if I'm not mistaken, he played 0 minutes in the second half.
That's correct.
The other guy, and I'm going to butcher his name, but the other guy that I don't think you saw in the lineup was, what was that, number 10, Soiree?
Yeah, no minutes.
So, guys, getting back to Freeman, everybody's putting this guy, and you're hearing rumblings about him as an NBA player. It's a little disturbing that your number one NIL game or guy on the team is not a, let's put it this way, he's not motivated on the defensive end. He's not a very good rebounder. He's not a very good student of the game. Going back to the one game, I forget who they were against now, where he let that defensive rebound. It was basically 5-on-1 on the defensive side. So, I give Red credit for, standing his ground, especially with Cayenne. But if you guys watched the first half there, he just couldn't keep anybody away from the basket. And, he's only a freshman. I get that. But I think it was very easy to see, guys, what Autry was talking about the last game about making some changes and some of the guys that don't like to do the, quote, hard stuff. I think that put a spotlight right on Freeman, Anthony, and for that fact, Soiree. Love to hear what you guys think about it. That's my take on it. Watch the game. I'm going to be curious to see how we do against Carolina, and if Autry puts the players in that he thinks are gonna play hard for him.
Thanks, Jay. Always appreciate the call.
Cayenne is an interesting point. Cayenne Anthony was really bad.
Did not play in the second half at all. Like, Noah Lobdell got more minutes in this game than Cayenne Anthony.
Yeah,
Bryce Zephyr got more
15
minutes.
seconds.
Still, they didn't check in Cayenne to shoot those free throws.
Yeah, it's true. It's an interesting conversation. I do agree with Jay in the sense that I do commend Autry for making a decision, backing up his words with some actions. And I think that was 100% necessary because otherwise you lose accountability, even more than you already have with the fan base.
Especially when a guy like Nate Kings was rolling in that game. Just ride him out. Don't let him cool off. He only didn't play 4 minutes. He had 36 minutes, Nate Kings. We're coming up on our first break here on the Double Overtime. We got much more when we come back, so don't go anywhere.
To find what's waiting inside the year of the cat.
British folk icon Al Stewart joins us, along with the Empty Pockets, on this week's Mountain Stage. Plus, we'll hear from Livingston Taylor, the Nighthawks, Christina Vane, and Sweet Honey in the Rock.
Sunday from noon to 2 on 88.3 FM WAER. Streaming live on WAER.org.
The Ostrom Avenue Podcast, breaking down Syracuse athletics.
The students rush the field. The Orange are bowl eligible and 6-0 for just the third time in the last 87 years.
And interviewing the industry's experts.
We are now joined by a very special guest. It's Emily Leiker of Syracuse.com.
Check out video interviews on YouTube at Ostrom Avenue Podcast and weekly episodes on WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
When you walk into NPR headquarters, one of the first things you see is a big map of the country covered with little blue dots. Each dot represents a local public radio station. That's the NPR network. I'm Catherine Marr, CEO of NPR. With federal funding for public media eliminated, your network is under serious threat. Help us plan for the road ahead by giving to this station today. Thank you.
Help us bridge the gap by visiting WAER.org.
First touch for Tyler Betsy, gives off Anthony. Over for Starling, already with 11 points. Dashes down the window, off the window and in. J.J. Starling, what a first half it's been for him. 13 points, doing whatever he wants on offense.
Welcome back to the Double Overtime on WAER. Luke Burgess joined with Griffin Bloomstein from our Ostrom Avenue studio, breaking down Syracuse's 86-72 win over Notre Dame, snapping a 4-game losing streak in the ACC. They hadn't won a game since the 13th of the month against Florida State, and tonight they got it done. Griffin, that is exciting, I think, for a lot of Syracuse fans that they did win, but the question is there any potential to actually move beyond today with any semblance of this momentum? Does this win actually mean anything when you look at the big picture? Because you've got North Carolina coming up literally in 2 days. That game,
quick turnaround.
They're taking off tomorrow. So you don't have any practice time in between. You're going straight into the next game, and that is a very good North Carolina team that you have to contend with.
You said exciting. I'm not sure that's the adjective I would use.
For this game?
I would say relieving. Like, you
Oh.
can go home from the Dome not mad as much.
I got to give a lot of credit, and I know we'll talk with Milo more about this later, but it was something that I noticed and I'm still thinking about. The student section today was packed.
It's a
3
Saturday.
full sections.
Everyone's cold. They want the 70-degree dome.
Right. Oh, no. Everyone wants to stay home and watch the game or go to the bar.
I don't
The
think
fact that
anyone.
you
I don't
have
think anyone's staying home
3
and watching
full-
this team. The student section, at least.
Well, you're always going to have the diehard fans that
Yes,
fill in
the
the
students.
first 10 rows. And then after that, I think it's kind of subject to the way that the team's playing. All I'll say is it was one of the more impressive student sections I've seen for a team that's playing really bad right now, because when the team's been on good stretches in the last few years, they basically only show up for the Duke game regardless.
We were both in the Dome for the Miami game, and the student section was pretty impressive.
I've
for
actually
that as
been
well.
impressed with the student turnout throughout the entirety of the season. But getting back to the more important thing, and of course, you can get your thoughts heard on the show as well, whether you're a student or not, 315-443-2011. There was definitely a similarity that we talked about earlier to what the team did in the first month of the season when they were missing Donnie Freeman. Remember, Donnie Freeman got injured, we think, in the Monmouth game, certainly around that time. He didn't play until the ACC opener on New Year's Eve against Clemson. Do you think that Donnie being benched today really made the difference? Is that the thing that swung this? I don't see that. And we've had a couple of people come in so far and say they weren't 100% sure, they didn't know, but I don't see how leaving your best player out is any sort of a long-term solution. Maybe it works tonight, but you're playing a Notre Dame team that didn't have its best player. I don't know.
If Donnie, the reason they got off to a hot start, Donnie not being on the floor allowed more shots for JJ to kind of take command of this game early, then sure, if that's the point that you want to make, yeah. That could be a very well reason. Donnie on that floor could still have JJ going off like he did to start the game. Like, one should not have to happen so that the other can exist. They should be able to coexist. JJ should be able to play well and get this team off to a strong lead, even if Donnie's in the game.
Right.
So,
I mean, if you have a wide open 3 and you're supposed to be one of the best guards in the ACC, I mean, he was preseason all ACC.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to hit that shot. I don't care who else is on the floor, and they got him open looks against NC State, and that wasn't the case. So to me, when I look at what the content of this game was, it's more of Syracuse had a very good shooting night, which is not uncommon. It's happened this year. We said that before the break. They had a great shooting night against Florida State. They shot the ball well against Pitt in the first half. They just happened to have one of those nights tonight, and it somewhat correlated with Donnie Freeman being on the bench, and that's what won them this game. I will give their defense credit. In the first 10 minutes of the game, I think they were a very good defensive product. But I felt like that waned in the second half. I felt like when they brought Donnie in, it didn't dip too much, but I did not think that the defensive effort was as good in the second half. They just shot the lights out, realistically. I mean, looking at the numbers, they shot 31% from 3 and 53% from the field. They made more than half their shots in the second half. That's why they won this game.
This was the first time in a while, I would say, going back to that Pittsburgh game that they won, that I felt they were in control the whole game.
100%.
That's just something that hasn't been the case. You go before that, like Syracuse was in control against all of those non-conference teams. Yes, they're non-conference teams.
Well, Northeastern made it close.
Yes, and then they lost to Hofstra. But I hadn't seen Syracuse be so confident. I think confidence is a word that we've talked about the past couple of years.
Oh, and it's something the team has been severely lacking. Severely.
Especially JJ. Like, the whole talk around JJ the past couple seasons, mostly last season, and then the start of this year, was about how his confidence wasn't that high. The hitch in his shot is maybe because of confidence. You can't see him attack the floor, he's scared to attack the lane because of his free throws. Like, that was something last season where JJ was going off and playing so well, was when he was attacking the hoop. This season, it seemed like he was scared to do that because he knew that his free throws were not that good.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that's his best attribute, and I think it hinders his game excessively because he is not a good free throw shooter. I mean, last time I checked, he was shooting just over 50% for the year. I'm doing a number crunch on that live in the moment.
We
so I
love
can get
live
you the
math.
ex-
52 is...
Well, there's no math involved. I just have to look it up.
No, sometimes we like to struggle with math here.
When he's shooting the three, yeah, that opens up a whole new facet of his game. And he's basically shooting the three like he did percentage-wise in his first year at Syracuse. He was a 32% three-point shooter. He's shooting at 31% right now. But the free throw numbers have just continuously gotten worse, and now they've fallen off a cliff. Here are the numbers throughout his career. His one season at Notre Dame, 64%. 71% in his first year at Syracuse. 69% last year. 52% this season.
Yeah.
And he has the ball less than he did last year. So, I mean, you'd have to think he's shooting fewer foul shots, which is true. Last year he averaged 5 a game. He's only averaging 3 a game this year. So he's shooting the ball less from the line, and maybe he's one of those guys that just needs volume to get going. And in my mind, if that's the case...
I don't think that's the case. I think...
J.J. Starling's more of an issue than Donnie Freeman is.
Well, the whole free throw discussion, as I said earlier, I don't like the free throw discussion. Today he didn't even shoot any, so, maybe he had a good game because he didn't even get the nerves at the line, and maybe that just sticks with him. The whole thing, if he just plays confident, if he can put up 20 points pretty often for Syracuse, this team would be so much different. He just opens up the floor when you have the threat of him scoring. There hasn't really been a threat of JJ this season, where last season you kind of relied on him to be the threat when he wasn't injured because Donnie was injured. The threat of JJ, if he's added to this team, can just open up the floor. It did for Nate Kings. Tyler Betsy came in the game, made 2 threes. When you have threats, and for the Syracuse team, there weren't really threats. When Donnie was playing well, he was like, okay, you can give Donnie his points because the other players on the floor are committing turnovers or not making their foul shots. And if one of these guys hits a couple threes, fine. If you have multiple threats on this team, that's when they can start getting dangerous.
Yeah, play coach and give us your hypothetical rotations, your hypothetical starting 5. Call in 315-443-2011. We're taking calls all the way up until 10 o'clock. Got about an hour to get your voice heard on the double overtime as we talk about Syracuse's 86-72 win over Notre Dame in the Dome tonight. The Orange pick up their first win in 4 games. And we did briefly touch on Nate Kings. You just mentioned how opening up the offense for him clearly had a huge impact. 28 points tonight. He had 27 in the first game of this losing streak. The OT loss to Boston College. Clearly, that talent is in there. And, I mean, when you look at inconsistency, I think it's probably a competition between him and Nate George for the most inconsistent players on the team this year. Sucks that those are the 2 main transfers that you brought in this year.
I don't think it's his fault necessarily, though.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you, is what is the key when he is hitting at such a high mark? Because you look at his points... If you go back to before the losing streak, let's go back to the beginning of ACC play. Sure. 5 points, 7 points, 7 points, 6 points, 27, 11 points, 11 points, 6, 28 today. So he's had 2 huge games. He's been in double digits 4 times, and that is 4 of the last 5 games. So that does beg the question to me a little bit, what is the potential if you can get him going? Because clearly, maybe it's not the way that Adrian Autry wants to win, but the way that this team can win in the ACC is if they shoot the 3 really well.
Just let him fly.
You got to get Nate Kings and Tyler Betsy involved as much as you can because they are the 2 best three-point shooters on this team.
What was interesting, Notre Dame was in a zone for most of this game. And when Syracuse, obviously ball movement and assist numbers have been an issue pretty much this entire season. That wasn't the case today. It all stems from moving the ball. Syracuse had 21 assists. Nate George, credit to him. He's gotten a lot of flack here because of his play not being as good as he was last season with Georgia Tech. Now, he didn't score the ball awfully well, but it's fine as long as he had 10 assists and 0 turnovers.
He also had 6 assists in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Between 10 minutes and 5 minutes to play in the game, he had 6 minutes because I wrote down with just over 10 minutes to play in the game, Nate George, 8 minutes left, right? 2 points, 3 assists, 0 turnovers. By the time we hit the under 4 media timeout, he had 10 assists. So he went off. in the final 10 minutes of this game, distributing the ball. And the offense, this was one of the few games that I think anyone can remember in ACC play. In all honesty, probably the only game where there was really never a chance of Notre Dame seriously getting back into it. The only time that I can remember is if you think back to about 6 minutes left in the game, Notre Dame, Cole Serta hit a 3, and Nate Kings immediately responded with a 3 on the other end. It made it a 6 to a 9-point game. And there have not been responses like that this season, but you allow your shooters to get a little bit hotter, and all of a sudden you don't have to rely on going to the line, getting fouled in transition to get some points and actually punch back. Instead, you can have a guy who can, shoot a somewhat open 3 in transition and actually make it because he's shooting the ball well. And all of a sudden, the free throws become a little bit less of an issue when that's the case.
Yeah, it's easy to attack a 2-3 zone when you have a guy like Nate Kings making shots or Tyler Betsy. You get them at the wings. You have your Nate George facilitating the ball. You put Will Kyle running the baseline as a lob threat, and then hopefully Donnie Freeman can command the middle of the free throw line and just facilitate the ball through him. You mentioned Northeastern as a game that Syracuse struggled. They only had 8 assists. It's a big stat. Clemson, they lost by 3, 8 assists. Boston College, overtime loss, 10 assists. NC State, a couple days ago, didn't play well, 10 assists. I don't know exactly where the magic number is because there's been games where Syracuse has facilitated the ball well. Hofstra, they had 15 and they still lost. But when a team gets the ball moving, assists are a key number to leading towards victories and just playing well in general. So when the ball's flowing, easy shots come from assists. When you're pushing the pace in transition, those are sometimes assists. Outlet pass, boom, bucket. And that was the thing today. We also got assists from your secondary ball handler, JJ. No turnovers and 5 assists.
Yeah.
It's
the
impressive.
no turnovers is huge, and Adrian Autry's been really big on that. I still want to say about Nate Kings, though, I do think when you look at the product that he's churned out this year, you do have to be a little bit disappointed.
Yeah,
because,
of course.
I mean, even though, yes, I think he's probably been one of the better players, yes, inconsistent. I stand by that. But one of the better players in ACC play, especially the last few weeks, particularly the way he plays defense, because he does. I mean, you can say what you want about Sadiq White being the only player that was trying, but I feel like he tries about as hard as anyone on the team on defense. He is still shooting 9% worse from 3 than he did at Oregon State. 9% is a lot.
He started the season off very slow.
Yeah, he did. And he's playing better lately, so that's kind of why I bring up the point. What can happen if he gets going shooting the basketball? What is the key to Syracuse getting more victories? You can let us know at 315-443-2011. That's the number to call if you want to get your voice heard on the double overtime. We're not too far away from having our reporter Milo Hoffman in studio. He's going to break down what he heard from Adrian Autry. Of course, he just walked into the building. Hello, Milo. He'll be joining in not too long.
Nice hat.
Yeah, he has to stay warm out there. It's 4 degrees in Syracuse. It's going to be pretty cold in Chapel Hill, too, where Syracuse is headed next. But you can let us know if you think Kings shooting the 3 better. Is that something that needs to be consistent in order for Syracuse to be competitive? Is it something else? Do they want Donnie Freeman back out on the floor when they take on the Tar Heels to start the game? One thing that we ended off on before we went to break is, and something we talked about at the top of the show, too, actually. If Syracuse hypothetically won against UNC, would you believe? Do you think that this is a winning recipe to actually make it a competitive game, or is this more of a flash in the pan for you?
Ooh, a flash in the pan. Not the analogy I would have used, or I was going to use rather, but a good analogy nonetheless. No, there's just no way that Syracuse beats UNC. I'll put it on.
I completely agree.
I'll put it on
That's
my
why
word.
I said,
like,
do you think they
my
can
word.
make it a close game?
A close game, sure. And it will have to be through defensive intensity. It'll have to be through Sadiq White and Nate Kings. And Donnie Freeman, if he has a fuel lit up from under him because of that benching. He took it personal, hopefully. Hopefully he took it personal. And then he starts playing better on the defensive end. Hopefully that leads to better offensively. But if you're going down to UNC, you're going to have to go through Caleb Wilson. And he's one of the most talented freshmen in the country. There's all this big talk about freshmen, Adrian Batza, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer. But sneaky Caleb Wilson is right up there. 20 points and 10 rebounds. He's athletic, 6'10", can put the ball on the floor, can attack the rim. Syracuse doesn't really have anyone to guard him. Because you're not putting Nate Kings on him. Sadiq White will guard him and foul out in 5 minutes.
Yeah, you bring up turnovers, and one consistent when you look at teams that Syracuse has lost to this season, teams that don't turn the ball over a lot. And, yeah, I mean, generally that is a stat that indicates winning, but Cal is a pretty mediocre team in the ACC. They're on the better side. But
hey, it's the Chris Bell revenge game. Don't get excited.
Fantastic. Syracuse hasn't played them yet. They do in a couple of weeks. But they are on the low side of turning the ball over, and they haven't necessarily, streaked towards any type of ACC dominance. You look at the only three teams that have fewer than 10 turnovers per game in the conference: Clemson, NC State, UNC.
Oof.
All teams that Syracuse has lost to. You want to go on further. 14th in the conference, Virginia Tech. 13th in the conference, Boston College, a bad team that doesn't turn the ball over a lot that Syracuse beat. So teams that are not good at keeping possession, Syracuse has done all right against them. We've got Dave from Liverpool on the line. He wants to talk about how many layups Syracuse gave up today.
A lot.
Dave, what do you got?
I don't know if I can remember such a terrible defensive deal down low. I mean,
38 points in the paint.
I mean, North Carolina is going to eat us alive down low.
Well, that's been a consistent theme. When you look at Syracuse's struggles in general, just guarding down low because of the size of William Kyle. He's 6'9", and he's playing as their center. And that's kind of something that's percolated throughout the entirety of the season, Dave. People talking about how Syracuse is going to struggle against the bigs in the ACC, the real bigs that can score. And, yeah, guess what? They have struggled against the bigs in the ACC that can score. And it did happen again today.
It amazes me that we can't recruit even a basic 7-foot center,
Well,
some
look at what
guy that could
happened.
play
Look at what happened last
20
season
minutes.
when they did have Eddie Lampkin, who was 6'11".
Yeah, but that's a different.
Yeah, but he couldn't jump over a phone book.
That's not incorrect. Eddie Lampkin he had his struggles of his own. But, yeah, you go back to 2 years ago where Malik Brown essentially became the center
At
for most of the season.
6'7", 6'8".
And they had the exact same issue. So it is kind of reminiscent of Adrian Autry's first year in charge in a lot of ways. And I think I see a lot of parallels between this season and that season. Dave, do you think there's any way...
Reminds me of the football program not having a backup quarterback, just like we don't have a backup point guard or sometimes a point guard at all.
Dave, is there a solution? Like if you were
exactly
if you were general manager, or the head coach, or the athletic director of Syracuse, like what are your first couple moves?
Well, to recognize real talent and try to go out and get them because they're overpaying for some of these guys.
Do you think there's any do you think there's any talent worth keeping on this team, or what do you think is the best talent on this team? What do you consider good talent?
A lot of guys have some potential, but we don't have a coach that's either not a good
That's
teacher.
what it always
well,
comes back to.
You remember? I mean, how did Syracuse do when Autry was an assistant coach? I don't think Syracuse did well after the first year in the ACC.
I mean, Autry was on the bench for a pretty long time. I'm pretty sure they went to a Final Four when he was on the bench. So I don't know about that.
But every year we lost 14 games.
They still made some runs in March. Dave, thanks for the call. Appreciate you giving us a call. And you're right. The paint defense has been a huge issue. It was again today. It's actually one of the few areas where Syracuse has been very consistently outdone. And today they actually did match Notre Dame pretty well. They had 36 points in the paint to Notre Dame's 38, and they just shot the ball a whole lot better. So that was the difference. I still don't really think it made much of a difference in this game particularly, because going back to the conversation that we had earlier, I think it's just the ridiculous shooting, making more than half your shots in the second half that was the difference. What I do want to highlight, Griffin, about what Dave said is it comes back to the same thing again. It's not about there not being talent on the team. It's about having a coach that is unable to find the combination to get this team to execute at its highest potential.
And that's been the issue. No Syracuse team under head coach Adrian Autry has played to their potential. And the best coaches get the most out of their players.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's what, when you look at a good coach, say there was a vacancy, not saying Autry's fired, but there's a vacancy for any hypothetical basketball team, you're going to be looking at someone, especially in an era where money is so valuable and you have a tight budget, and getting players to come to campus who can get more with less. Simple business concept. That's what you want for a guy who's in charge of your basketball team, who can get the most out of guys who might have, might be a diamond in the rough, might have some upside.
And fortunate for Syracuse, it doesn't have to be that. Like, they got Nate George. UNC, who Syracuse plays on Monday, tried to get Nate George.
Yes.
Syracuse won.
Yeah. Outbid them. That was their big get of the offseason, and it hasn't worked out too well, although you got to give George credit. 10 assists tonight, did not turn the ball over one single time. And a guy who got to witness all of that is our reporter, Milo Hoffman. He's going to be on with us after a short break, which we are up against right now. The double overtime goes on, though, until 10 o'clock, so you still got about 50 minutes to get involved on the action. We'll be back in just a minute. This is the double overtime on WAER.
NewsHour from the BBC brings you interviews, news, and analysis of the day's top global events.
What's going on?
What happens next?
Let's get more on our top story now.
With reporters across the world covering stories when they happen, wherever they happen.
This place is so remote that it's hard to imagine it as the front line of a major geopolitical row.
NewsHour from the BBC.
Weekdays after Morning Edition at 9 on WAER, your local NPR station.
There is a one-stop listen for everything Syracuse athletics.
Syracuse men's lacrosse had arguably maybe Gary Gates' best weekend ever as head coach.
The Ostrom Avenue podcast provides unique opinions, plus exciting interviews from industry experts.
The voice of Syracuse men's lacrosse and Syracuse women's basketball as well. Tim Leonard, Javon Edmonds of Syracuse.com.
Check out weekly episodes and listen at WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening. We hope you're enjoying this WAER sports broadcast. Our sports staff goes where the teams go, home and away, and prepare for days before each game broadcast. Our talk show and podcast hosts analyze games, pore over stats, and keep up on sports trends. These and many behind-the-scenes opportunities are made possible by listener donations. So if you're a fan or an alum, donate to keep our sports legacy strong at WAER.org and click donate.
10 questions. If you could go out to dinner with anybody on the Syracuse football team, who would it be and why?
In 10 minutes.
Time is winding down. It's the 10 for 10 right here on WAER.
That's right. It is 10 for 10 time. Producer Adam here. And, of course, we've still got Luke Burgess and Griffin Bloomstein. They'll be answering the questions. If you at home want to answer, you can call in at 315-443-2011. All right, let's get things started. Question number one for you guys.
I hope we
Which
have some
NBA
questions like the one they were
drafted
teasing.
Lawrence Moten. Of course, today he got honored in the Dome. So who'd he go to in the NBA?
I know it. I know
it too.
Okay, do we say it at the same time, or how's the answering process work here? It's the Vancouver Grizzlies.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I believe you.
Yep, got it. 1 for 1.
Thank you.
Maybe it's just a race.
Boy, guys.
All right.
That's a
Race?
great start.
Thank you.
And that's
next time we'll say it
exactly
on
what we
3
need
for
to do,
both.
and that's a good trend for us, I think. Question number 2, not trivia. Some more fun, though.
I like
Who on the
this.
team would you like to spend a day with?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'll go first.
Okay.
I would say Noah Lobdell. I think, it's an interesting story where you have a guy that's coming off the end of the bench, the juicing station. What does it go in? Like a day in the life of Noah Lobdell, trying to, hype up the squad, be that guy at the bench where all the teammates are dapping you up, giving you fist bumps, and just kind of be that guy that everyone likes. And, Coach Autry has mentioned he's a big part of the rotation.
I'm going to go with J.J. Starling. He's a local. He can show me around.
Okay.
Take
So-
me up
so
to
is Noah
Baldwinsville.
Lobdell.
Maybe he knows some good spots. That is true. Maybe we can do a double date kind of scenario.
Oh,
We'll both be
I
there.
would
They'll
like
show us
that.
around.
Yeah, I like that. I think
J.J. Starling,
that's a good
he's
option
gonna,
for you guys.
he knows probably some good food spots
I think
around.
they're friends too, so
And they are. Maybe we make a TikTok along the way.
I would be so down.
They love making TikToks.
I know
they
that.
make TikToks together all the time. Great dancers. All right. Number 3 on the 10 for 10. Back to Lawrence Moten. He had a very famous nickname. What was it?
I mean, I know they have the poetry thing.
Yeah.
Poetry in motion.
Poetry in Moten. I think it is one of the better
I love it.
nicknames that we've really ever seen. It's an incredible one. So
They've got it on the
you guys
shirts.
are 2 for 2 so far in the trivia. I like it.
Yep. Good start.
All right, so question number 4. It is another trivia question. The last time Syracuse played Notre Dame in the Dome, the Orange won 77-69. Who was the leading scorer in that game?
I don't know off the top of my head. I got to guess. I'll let you go first, though.
I'm trying to just think of the lineup. I mean, of course, no Donnie Freeman.
No Donnie Freeman. This was an interesting game, I believe.
I'm going to say it was Elijah Moore.
Oh, wait. I'm going to go Eddie Lampkin.
Trick question. Even though Syracuse won, it was Marcus Burden for Notre Dame who led the game in scoring.
Oh,
sorry,
well,
guys.
who was the leader for Syracuse?
That doesn't matter.
I didn't know
that
it was
wasn't the
both
question.
teams.
I thought we were
it was who was the leading scorer in the game. All right, I've got another one for you guys. Notre Dame beat Syracuse in the ACC opener last season. That game was at the Purcell Pavilion.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Who led that game in scoring?
He was calling the
Micah
game.
Shrewsbury.
That's not fair.
Micah Shrewsbury. He's coaching.
Braden Shrewsbury.
Oh, Griffin wins. Griffin got it.
And he was at the game.
Braden Shrewsbury, the 3-point shooter, who is his son.
Yes.
I know that.
Correct. All right.
Wait. Can I get bonus if I know how many points he had?
Yeah.
I'm going to say 28.
25.
I was going to guess 25.
Sorry, close. All right, well, another Shrewsbury-related question. Syracuse and Notre Dame have both had, of course, father-son duos. Who averaged more points, Shrewsbury or Boeheim, of course, of the Buddy variety?
Shrewsbury.
I think Boeheim. What year are we talking? Their whole career?
A whole career.
Buddy Boeheim.
Shrewsbury.
Buddy Boeheim, he averaged 14 points. Shrewsbury averages just 12 points per game.
Is he still tearing it up in the G League, or is he in Europe?
No, he's overseas.
All right, so you guys just brought up professional players. That segues us perfectly to the next question. Since 2020, how many NBA draft picks have Notre Dame and Syracuse produced?
Ooh.
Well, I know Syracuse has only had one. I kind of forget who it was, but I know that they've had
Since
one.
2020.
I'm going to say 2.
Wait, I'm going to go 3.
2. My goodness, Luke.
Yeah.
This is one of the better 10 for 10 performances that I think we've ever seen. And we've got another trivia question here. Let's see if you can keep it going. Syracuse and Notre Dame both joined the ACC for basketball in the same year. When was it?
Ooh, good question.
This was...
we had a caller just mention it.
2013?
No, it was 2012.
Now 2013. Yeah. Luke Burgess, guys. He knows ball. All right, so I think
you
might still be perfect.
It's one of the nicer things you've ever said to me.
Of course. All right, so we've got 2 more here. Unfortunately, this one's maybe a little bit sad because, of course, Syracuse got dominated by Notre Dame in football 70-7. Who did score that one touchdown for Syracuse?
Joe Filardi. Right?
Yes.
It was a rushing touchdown?
Yeah.
Of course, Joe Filardi, who started at quarterback, now potentially could be playing tomorrow for Syracuse lacrosse.
That's true.
Tune in here on WAER at 1:30.
Yeah.
All right, final question, also lacrosse-related. Notre Dame, of course, has had a guy play multiple sports in Jordan Faison recently. Syracuse has had its multi-sport athletes with guys like Jim Brown, Donovan McNabb. There is a dual-sport athlete on the Notre Dame men's basketball team. Who is it, and what sport does he play?
Oh, this is a good question.
Oof.
Is it Cole Serta? I feel like I don't know what sport, but I
think. Well, I know there's another football and lacrosse dual sport.
I think there's a football. I think it's a football player.
It is a football player, and there's another football lacrosse that's Faison's younger brother, but it's actually Mark Zachary the Fourth.
Oh, I don't even know who that is.
Or IV.
You
That's
don't know
fourth,
who that
right?
is?
No.
I don't think not someone who played, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
much.
did he play
But
today?
The freshman guard.
If he didn't play today, I don't know who it is.
He's on the roster.
You know who his dad is?
He did not play.
His dad's the third.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's right. All right. Well, very good
Bonus
job, guys,
point.
on the 10 for 10. We do have a bonus.
Okay.
Luke, you are a senior now. We're into almost the final month.
I heard
Don't
this
remind
trivia
me.
question was about Luke.
Yeah. What was your first ever double overtime?
How am I supposed to get this?
Guess.
All right, let's think about this. It's probably lacrosse season.
No. It wouldn't have
Basketball?
been. No, it would have been football.
Oh, because
Football last year.
last
That's your
year?
hint. Yeah.
All right. Well, you
I'm-
called that game. So let me.
I feel
Did they play Ohio last year?
Can I look at the schedule?
No.
Is that I can look at the schedule.
Well, it's not a football game. I'll just tell you that.
So I was right. Is lacrosse?
No, it has to be a football game. It has to be a football game. Otherwise, they're wrong.
They might be wrong.
Yeah.
Lemoyne men's basketball, the opener with.
No, that's incorrect. Miami football.
Oh, Miami.
Lemoyne men's. Lemoyne. Oh, I guess Miami football was after that, but I was supposed to be on Lemoyne.
Miami football was the last game of the
I was supposed
season.
to be on Lemoyne men's basketball, but I had the flu, so I had to drop out last minute. So the assignments probably were wrong.
Oh.
So I think it was Miami football.
Cole Purvis needs to do his fact checking a little bit.
Yeah, you should have asked, Cole. Sorry.
All right, well, still a pretty positive 10 for 10. Thank you guys for playing. Anyone at home who played, we hope you enjoyed it. All right, well, we'll be back in just a moment here on the Double Overtime. Our reporter who was at the game, Milo Hoffman, will join the show.
The Ostrom Avenue Podcast, breaking down Syracuse athletics.
The students rush the field. The Orange are bowl eligible and 6-0 for just the third time in the last 87 years.
And interviewing the industry's experts.
We are now joined by a very special guest. It's Emily Liker of Syracuse.com.
Check out video interviews on YouTube at Ostrom Avenue Podcast and weekly episodes on WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
To find what's waiting inside the year of the cat.
British folk icon Al Stewart joins us, along with the Empty Pockets on this week's Mountain Stage. Plus, we'll hear from Livingston Taylor, the Nighthawks, Christina Vane, and Sweet Honey in the Rock.
Sunday from noon to 2 on 88.3 FM WAER. Streaming live on WAER.org.
NewsHour from the BBC.
Understand what's happening.
With news.
What's going on?
Heat waves, cyclones, storms, floods.
Increasingly unpredictable weather events.
Interviews.
2024 is the hottest year on record.
This is an uncharted situation.
And analysis of the day's global events.
In the Middle East, it's very difficult to be shocked nowadays.
That's NewsHour from the BBC.
Weekdays after morning edition at 9 on WAER, your local NPR station.
He loves Syracuse. He's one of the great players that have played at Syracuse. Underrated. You cannot mention great players that played at Syracuse without mentioning Lawrence Moten.
Tonight, Syracuse men's basketball honored Lawrence Moten, who tragically passed away a couple of months ago. Welcome back into the Double Overtime on WAER. Griffin Bloomstein, Luke Burgess, and your host here all the way up until 10 p.m. We are joined now by Milo Hoffman, who was in the Dome for today's game. Got to watch the Lawrence Moten ceremony that happened at halftime. How was it? What was the feel in the Dome? Obviously, just heard Coach Jim Boeheim. What did he have to say about Moten?
Yeah, no, I mean it was an awesome ceremony at halftime, and you know normally at games like this, fans go and you go to the concessions, you go to the bathroom, you go talk to people during halftime. A lot of the people in the Dome stayed in their seats for this, and for a very good reason, because Lawrence Moten, obviously the all-time leading scorer for Syracuse, Jim Boeheim coached him. He was teammates with Adrian Autry, a whole lot of connections back, to this team. And yes, Jim Boeheim got up there. He spoke next to Lawrence Moten's family. There was like 15 people on the court at the time. It was a really nice ceremony and a really nice game to go along with the ceremony. Jim Boeheim at the end said, "There's one thing that Lawrence Moten wants. He wants Syracuse to win today." That's what he ended off his speech with. So I think all around it was a great moment. Honoring one of the greats, at this school in program history. And Jim Boeheim just kept going on and on about, there's no Syracuse basketball without Lawrence Moten and vice versa. And, it's just he means so much to the area. And obviously he played in the NBA, but even after the NBA, he came and did a lot in the central New York area. So it was more than just basketball, too. So really a great moment at halftime in what was a great game overall.
Syracuse got the win for Lawrence Moten, 86-72. If you want to call in, talk to Milo, ask him about the vibe in the Dome. If Donnie may be a little distraught because of his benching, you can do so. 315-443-2011. The phone lines are open all the way up until 10 p.m. What do you think about Donnie getting benched? I have to start that. Like, were you surprised? Like, what was the vibe? Was Donnie head down on the bench? Was he energetic more than usual?
So this is sort of like a two-parter. His vibe was, I'm going to be honest, it wasn't the greatest at the beginning of the game. It was not the greatest. There was a moment where Donnie, he checked in like 8 or 9 minutes into the game, and he picked up 2 fouls in the first half somewhat quickly, and Autry pulled him to the bench. And before that, I was staring directly at Donnie, and he was shaking his head, and he was like, "Don't take me out." And then Autry ended up taking him back out after he checked into the game 9 minutes in. He did not seem too happy, but then in the post game, he went through the, I'm playing my role. This is what Coach Autry asked of me, and I went out there and I did what I was supposed to do. Sadiq White was being interviewed by all these people in the locker room, and Donnie Freeman comes walking into the locker room, and he yells out, "Sadiq!" Like, he was happy for his fellow forward who stepped into the starting lineup role. But, I mean, listen, it's an interesting moment because Donnie Freeman, like we've been saying all year long, is the best player on the team, and now he doesn't start. Not to toot my own horn, I was on Sports Night last night.
Okay.
And I did say, is this team better without Donnie Freeman? And this is one of the better, more complete games Syracuse has played all season long.
I would agree with that.
It's an interesting conversation, but the team sort of gels together more without Donnie Freeman on the floor because they're not relying on him, to go ISO to the cup every time. It's more, people are getting more involved. There's more ball movement. Interesting conversation, like I said, but I mean, it's definitely worth putting out there.
It is the first time, Milo, that they have beat a team in the ACC by more than 11.
Yeah.
Their biggest win aside from this was Pitt. They won 83-72. This was really the first true blowout because the Pitt game was a single-digit game until the final.
I wouldn't call 14 points a blowout.
It's a comfortable win.
I mean, there was no stress down the stretch.
There was some stress, like 10 minutes, left in the second half.
The final 5 minutes of this game,
yeah,
you knew Syracuse was probably going on to win.
Agreed.
Unless something miraculous happens,
and
which it does. Absolutely it did. But I mean, even in that Pitt game, it got down to 6 points with 2 minutes to play.
Mm-hmm. And everyone in the dome, it was great energy, had that in the back of their mind, and Autry, every time a player on Syracuse would make a bad pass or turn the ball over and the lead would be cut back down to single digits, and then Notre Dame hit a 3 to cut it to 6 at one point in the second half. I mean, it had to go through his mind, is this going to be another blown lead? It's been unbelievable, the amount of blown leads, and thankfully SU pulled it out today, and pretty comfortably. Like you said, 14 points.
Of course, we've talked about Donnie Freeman the entire show. It is the first thing that I think was on a lot of people's minds when this game started today. From your perspective, getting to watch the game courtside, is there a noticeable difference in, what is the tangible difference without him out there? Because you say, they gel better, but in reality, there's no reason that having a guy who gives you 20 points a night off the floor should make you better. So what are the things that look better without him out there?
It's simple. It's the ball movement. There is much more ball movement when Donnie Freeman is not on the floor. Because when Donnie's on the floor, he's a guy, he's almost 7 feet tall. He has the ability to almost score on anyone. So in the back of your mind, if you're, Nate George, Nate Kings, Tyler Betsy, you want to feed that guy the ball, and rightfully so, because he can pretty much go and get a bucket on anyone. But because of that, you're relying on him so much, and therefore not everyone else is getting involved. It's halting Nate King's ability to shoot threes from the outside. It's halting, Nate George's ability to dish the ball. I mean, he had 10 assists today, Nate George.
No turnovers.
Impressive. And no turnovers. That's what a point guard's supposed to do. And when Donnie Freeman's out there, he's great. He's a great basketball player. There's no questioning that. He receives the ball in the paint, and play just kind of slows down. It's like it pauses for a second, and a lot of the time he hesitates, too, before even making a move to the cup. So I think that there's just so much more fluidity when Donnie Freeman is not out there. Not saying he shouldn't start going forward. That did come up in the press conference, by the way, and Adrian Autry said he's not sure if this is going to be something
I said,
going
does
forward.
that unsettle you?
We heard that quote, and I said that's as good as saying he's not starting.
Right.
You may, I mean, because
agree.
if he's going to start the next game, you'll just say,
Right.
yeah,
You
we
say
tried
yes.
it out.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think it's legitimately Adrian Autry doesn't know that whether or not he's
Well, you
gonna
better
start.
figure it out because the next game's in like 2 days.
I also think after this game, how could you kind of change it? How could you not stick to what you did?
And this is what we were talking about. If Syracuse doesn't start Donnie Freeman, goes down to Chapel Hill, Carmichael Arena, and loses by 20 plus.
Dean Dome.
Dean Dome.
Right.
Carmichael is where the women's team plays.
Yeah,
different.
Too
Sorry.
different.
That women's game last week.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
Tough overtime loss. if Donnie Freeman doesn't start and they lose by 20 plus, then everything
true.
is going to be start.
Yeah.
Donnie
This is
and
what we talked
what was
about.
Autry doing?
It's true. It's a good point, but I just think after a win like this, I mean, if you lost 5 in a row, you would have had your first 5-game losing streak in this century. So he went out there. He clearly trusted
Not the first 5-game
this.
losing streak in the century. 69
Yes,
was the last one.
Yes, 69.
Oh, I
meant
guess you could
in
say the 21st,
yeah, the 21st century.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
all
what
right.
I meant.
Fair
That's what I
enough.
meant.
I thought we were in the 22nd century for a second.
I know. I was confused there for a sec. I do agree with the point that, yes, if Donnie Freeman doesn't start and you get blown out by North Carolina, it's going to look bad. But you can't lose fact that, it looked great tonight. Like, you have to stick with tonight.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why you can't.
But it's a what
repeat
have you
this
done
again.
for me lately type of business. And I said this to Griffin earlier on in the show. Every single time that Adrian Autry doesn't start Donnie Freeman, he's taking a huge gamble. Because if it pays off and you win the game, great. But if you don't, and I mean, let's be honest, the calls for his job over the past week have been pretty loud. From the fan
Very.
base, from people involved,
Yeah.
from here even. It's unavoidable. It's not, I don't think anyone's going after the guy, but Syracuse is not in a good place right now, and they have a team that on paper was supposed to take them back to the tournament. And I think every single time that you take that risk, if it doesn't pay off, it's going to be exponential. Because you
also-
have an easy thing to point to as a fan. You didn't play
It's
your best
true.
player for half the game. Of course you lost.
And that it was exactly what I thought before the game. I mean, if you were following along WAR Sports Talk on X, I was like, wait, Donnie Freeman's out on the verge of 5 straight losses, and this is what you do? But half of this is also the fact that, Sadiq White played really well. This was probably Sadiq White's best game of the year. Most complete game from Sadiq White. I mean, he was grabbing boards, 6 of them on the day. He was,
And his energy doesn't show up on the box score.
No, exactly.
And that's what it is. Like, yes, Sadiq White had 4 fouls.
It does in the sense that he has 5 fouls every single time he
but
plays.
If
true.
Sadiq White has
It's an
5
issue.
fouls and Syracuse doesn't commit 20 as a team like they did a couple games ago, then I think they're in a good spot. If he's committing 4 fouls a game, hopefully not fouling out, that means he's bringing the defensive intensity. Now, hopefully he can bring that back a little just so he's not fouling and sending the other team to the free throw line. Do you think Sadiq White should stay in the starting lineup against UNC, or does it even matter at all? Call in 315-443-2011. The phone lines are open. That's the big thing. Like, does it even matter?
Oh, come on. I mean, I think that this season has been so awful. There's no other way to put it. The season has been awful. It's been really bad. But after a game like this, I'm sick of the people that are just dogging and dreading. Take advantage, please. Take advantage. This is
Milo,
a 14-point win.
I would counter that with, if you go out after the, what was the last game? NC State on Tuesday. If you go out after that game,
Stinka,
and you say that the season's over. Oh, and by the way, they don't have any recruits signed for next
Yeah.
season.
That is the most alarming
And
thing I've ever
by
heard.
the way,
zero recruits
the
committed.
coach has no idea what's going on. The press conference was 3 minutes long, and there's all these red flags. How does one win by 14 points against a team that didn't have its best player fix all that? It doesn't. It doesn't fix the problem.
because
so
of the-
that's why there's still negativity.
Right.
It's a cause and effect. And
it's the vibe, though, that was in the Dome
Yes.
today. There was an energy that I have not witnessed all year long.
That's not
all
a
year
good
long.
thing, though.
What do you mean that's not a good thing?
The only good thing about this
How
win...
is there being energy in the Dome not a good thing?
No, the fact that you said you haven't seen it in the Dome.
Oh, of course.
Since the Tennessee game.
Yes, that's a bad thing. But a good thing is that it's here. It's here, right?
But it's not here
finally
to stay.
arrived.
That's the trip.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
I do. I'm pretty confident in that. I don't know it, but I'm pretty
What
confident.
makes you so confident that this energy, the best of the year,
Because this-
you honor Lawrence Moten, finally, maybe there's a boost in this team. Is that all just going to evaporate? I don't understand how you think that's just going to leave.
I think Monday's game is a pretty big indicator of how important this game was.
The
You're going to have that 50-50 hindsight vision after Monday's game, because if they go out and they try the same thing without Donnie Freeman and UNC just does what they do and are a much more talented basketball team that is playing together and playing great basketball and they blow them out, then I just don't think that this game really matters. Now, if you go out and you rattle off a win against UNC and then you rattle off a win against Virginia, all of a sudden people are going to be calling Adrian Autry a genius for taking Donnie Freeman out of the lineup.
And
I'm just telling you what would happen.
And I'm going to be Donnie Freeman's site in the next 2 months. If Syracuse beat Tennessee without Donnie Freeman, that was supposed to be the game that brought you up. You played Houston close. You beat Tennessee at home. That was a top 25 team at the time.
Yeah.
That was supposed to bring the juice.
The win against Tennessee.
And then two games later, you lost to Hofstra.
I am with you.
Right.
Why would you expect anything different after beating a team by 14 points without Marcus Burton?
Because I think that this game today showed something different. It showed something that Syracuse hadn't shown.
Exactly. They hadn't shown it for
year.
2 months.
Right, and they finally did tonight. They finally showed ball movement. They had over 20 assists. Nate George did exactly what he was supposed to do. He didn't turn the ball over. He just 10 assists. Sadiq White did exactly what he was supposed to do.
I think you have
it's a one-off.
I think you have to prove that it's not a fluke. I think that the season has provided plenty of evidence that it absolutely could be. And on top of the fact that it could be a fluke, it's not even that good of a win.
Nope.
I mean, what is this? Like quad 3?
Quad
2?
Right.
Quad 2 fringe?
The team you're playing isn't good, but we're at the stage of the season where you can't even look at that column of the stat sheet should be crossed off.
Right.
Quad 1,
and
2,
that's
or 7.
That's
I don't
exactly why it doesn't really matter.
But
it's
does.
Nice to have energy in the dome, but
you're supposed to
until
take at
you
least
actually
something.
Notre Dame is
something.
ranked below Syracuse in the net.
Right, and until you actually do something with this momentum, I mean, because we have to remember, if this was a team that was rebuilding and expecting to play bad this year, then I would completely agree with you because, okay, it would be a good sign for next season.
That's a quad 3 win.
It's still the expectation that Syracuse goes on and, makes the tournament, realistically, right?
No,
I mean,
there's no way that's
well,
still the expectation.
I don't think that that's anyone's expectation of what's reality, but that, just because the season starts to go bad as, like, the group in then what are you playing? What are you playing for at this point? Is it so then? And that just completely solidifies my point that it doesn't really matter.
I mean, right, but you have to look at each game as an individual game at this point in the season.
Yeah,
right?
this was a good game.
Yeah, it was.
No one should argue that.
If Syracuse lost this game, or even if Syracuse won by 4 or 5, or a tight margin like that, it would be completely different. But because of the fashion in which they won this game, I think you could at least take slivers, bits and pieces into UNC, and hopefully it stays.
Yeah, right.
And of course, everyone hopes that's the case. It's been proven otherwise throughout the season. But it's just another.
I think we're on the same page, Milo.
Right.
I think we're on the same page. It's nice to see that they can still play this basketball, and they're not just gonna turn the ball over 15 times a game and lose by 20 every single night. But I mean, is that just a slow meandering walk off the plank? Towards like, all right, we slowed down a little bit. Like maybe I got like a cup of tea on the way to comfort myself, but it's still not good.
Yeah, but you'll take cup of teas at this point of the season, right?
We've been talking maybe a cup of tea. I know Luke's a big tea guy. We got Colin from Syracuse on the line, wants to talk about Donnie Freeman. Colin, is Donnie an NBA player? Have you been impressed by Donnie? Do you agree with the decision to bench him? What you got?
I do agree with the decision to bench him. I believe he did that to send a message. If he's not afraid to bench their primetime guy, their number one guy, their NBA first-round draft pick, well, then Nate King's your butt ain't safe. You know what? Nate George, your butt ain't safe.
Nate King's just put up 28 points.
And another thought is, he picked the perfect game to do it against Notre Dame, who really struggles. And the worst team that you play, the better your offense is going to be. That's why they had such a great spark. They go and they get shut down on defense 4 or 5 times and go on these stretches like they did against Miami, where they're not hitting and they're going 2 minutes without scoring, and so on and so on. So that's my take on it.
All right, thanks, Colin. I mean, the thing with Donnie, like, yes, you can agree to bench him, you can agree not to bench him, but if this team wants to be taken seriously, if this team wants to have any success in the next couple of games, you're going to need your best player.
Yeah, I will say it is an interesting hypothetical that I don't know if Colin was necessarily implying, but it was what I took from what he was saying, is that maybe this was more about not about Donnie Freeman and what he's done,
Sending a
but the
message?
fact
Right.
that actually, what he's done, the fact that he's been so good that no one is ineligible to be benched.
Yeah.
And
So then you're just benching
Because-
him for the sake of
everyone-
benching him?
Well, no, but
I'm just saying that's a possibility.
There's been a
because-
lot of calls this season for, Autry to bring back sort of the Boeheim mentality, get those texts on the sideline, like
Yeah.
scream at your players and, go crazy at Cameron Indoor like Boeheim would do. Autry might not do that. I think that's a good point. This might be Autry saying, all right, I'm not Boeheim, but I still have the power. I'm in control of this team. I'm going to bench my star guy. And now he's sort of he's singing in the rain because it worked.
I mean, Autry's
Yeah, right.
dismissed players from the team before. He's shown his ability to let players go, like Quadir Copeland, who Syracuse
that didn't work.
Well, yeah, exactly. Syracuse could have kept him around. Autry said, "Go find another home," essentially, and look what Quadir Copeland's now doing. I think if this was a decision by Autry just to figure out, okay, there needs to be a change. Let me just try this. Then that's wrong. But if he genuinely saw something that could have been changed by moving Donnie Freeman to the bench, I just don't see it.
Well, in the press conference, he said the matchups, looked good and they were in favor. Which maybe it's it's blubber.
I just
Maybe
don't know how any matchup could look
bad.
Worse or better.
And listen,
without
I'm not
Donnie Freeman.
I'm not
going to
pretend like
on paper.
I know
on paper.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe there is something in the intangibles, but
there
on paper, Donnie Freeman
matchups.
is a mismatch, an advantage of Syracuse against pretty much everyone in the ACC he's going up against.
Yeah, if Autry thought that, okay, sitting Donnie, maybe the matchup for Sadiq White against whoever Donnie was going to go up against might not be as good, but that'll get Nate Kings open today, which clearly it worked, or that'll give Nate George more freedom to move the ball, which it also worked. And J.J. Starling, this was his game, especially in the first half. Oh, my goodness. But, there were indirect matchups possibly that Autry was looking at that if Donnie Freeman is in or out of this game, it has a massive impact.
Mm-hmm.
And you just can't really fault him too much at this point in time. It worked, and you have to live with that and be happy about it.
Another player who got a benching necessarily, second half, Cayenne did not play. And, Cayenne's had ups and downs. Didn't see Carmelo.
Carmelo was not in the dome.
Not in attendance. Cayenne's had ups and downs this season. A lot of downs on the defensive end, more ups on the offensive end. What did you see him at the bench? That's a guy where, he's an Anthony. He probably wants to play, wants to show out. He's a guy that
Didn't make a field goal today.
Didn't make a field goal. Didn't play in the second half.
I saw the mood on the sideline. He was the last person to get up when someone make a three on Syracuse. He was sort of in the shadow of a couple players. He was sitting next to Luke Fennell towards the end of the bench, all the way down the sideline. And yeah, he didn't look invested fully. And I'm not saying he wasn't, but just by the looks of it, he didn't look like he was fully into the game.
He hasn't earned a place to play.
Completely agree.
In ACC play defensively, he's just been completely outmatched.
He's
pretty much every
liability on the defensive side. And yes, he can chuck up some threes and pray that they go in, and sometimes
and he's
they
a pretty
do.
good slasher too.
Yeah,
especially if he has an advantage matchup wise.
He's shifty.
He's shifty and he's pretty quick.
Yeah,
but he gets beat to the basket every possession.
It's very true. And if you're gonna struggle this much on defense like Syracuse has these last 4 games, I think it completely makes sense to not play Cayenne Anthony because, you're pretty much giving someone a free lane to the basket.
And also, he's an awful free throw shooter.
Really bad. He had 1 free throw today. He took it. It bounced high, almost went above the backboard. Luckily, it fell in. I saw on his face. It was relief. Full relief that one went in.
It just reminds me of after the Delaware State game, the second game of the year, when in post-game media availability, he was like, I missed 2 free throws. I got to be better than that. Wow.
Right. Well,
I respect the fact that he knows what he needs to work on. I'm not trying to dog on the guy whatsoever, but
I try to wrap
he
my
is
head around
a
it.
really pretty putrid
and it's not like he has a bad form. Like William Kyle, William Kyle looks like he
fish out of water.
Really, Cayenne Anthony, on the other hand, is a great 3-point shooter. Maybe the numbers say otherwise, but he has a great form. Mellow, obviously. I don't get it. Free throws all mental, clearly.
You're listening to the Double Overtime on WAER. We got just about 15 minutes to go. Griffin Bloomstein here. We got Luke Burgess, my co-host, and then Milo Hoffman, who is inside the dome for this one. Syracuse takes down Notre Dame 86-72. If you want to ask a question to Milo, who is in attendance, you can do so. 315-443-2011. Milo, was there any other quotes that you got from a player or from Autry that kind of stood out to you? Maybe was a player kind of positive about this win? Maybe they thought that this could be the motivator going forward.
I think I talked to Nate Kings in the locker room, and he's really fun to talk to. He's very open to everyone in the locker room, and he was asked a few times, "What does this win mean? What does this mean to the team?" And everyone, all the players are going to give their, yes, this, you got to keep going. You got to, take this one and move on to the next. But he was also asked, when do you know that you have it? When do you know that you got it going on a special night like this? And he said, on a random night, let's say you start 1 for 3 from three-point range. In the back of your mind, he said, well, if I miss this next one, then I start to put pressure on myself, which I thought was very interesting because, he's a pure shooter, and you always wonder what's in the mind of a shooter like Nate Kings. If you got it going, oh, I've got it going. Tonight he said he had it going. It's obviously he did, and it's just it's an unbelievable feeling for him as a pure shooter to see them go through at a great rate. But he really stood out. He's a great personality on this team and is really forming into a massive leader for the Orange.
Michael from Manlius has an opinion on Coach Autry. Michael, you have faith? Are you a little disappointed? What's your
I think I'm back on board with Coach Autry for one reason.
Oh.
I told Tim Leonard the other day that SU needs to start from the ground up and just start new with everything. And he said, they need a new start. And I'm like, yes, they do. But here's what I think. SU can't just change the color of their jersey mid-season. So he's doing all he can do to start over. Right now, he realizes that this season won't be saved unless we make dramatic changes, and he's trying to do that. I give him credit for trying to do that.
So does the fact that this change is because in theory he has been making some changes, at least to the way that he's talking to the team in between these games, what they're practicing, does the fact that this is a tangible change that the fans can see, is that what changes your mind?
It's going to be small things at first with Coach Autry. I think he's kind of he's an intellectual guy. He's a mind guy, and he knows that he got to start slow. And I think he'll get more confidence, and he'll be able to make larger changes. And we'll see. We'll see. I think only that can save us against a team like UNC and, God help us, Duke.
That sums it up perfectly. Thank you, Michael, so much. We appreciate the call. We're just about 10 minutes away. I just want to give Milo your last thoughts, is
anything you want to add.
Anything, put it all on the table.
I want to mention the performance of J.J. Starling tonight to end off because it's funny. I'm ending off with the performance of J.J. Starling, but that's what started off Syracuse today. He was on one.
On fuego.
On fire in as many different languages as you want to mention. I mean, unstoppable, and you could just see it in his eye. He would make a shot, fully do the celly, everything, and he would, look people down the sideline. He had it going, and you could tell there was some revenge. There was some revenge in his eye. How could there not be? I mean, listen, I don't care if it was 3 years ago. I don't care if it was 10 years ago.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know about revenge. Whatever JJ was doing last night, hopefully he repeats that going forward this season. Thank you so much, Milo.
Stay in routine.
Yeah, stay in routine. Whatever happened the night before, get that routine, get that going. Thank you so much, Milo, for coming on to the Double Overtime. We got one final break on the show. When we come back, Luke and I will give out our final words. It's Double Overtime on WAER. Don't go anywhere. There is a one-stop listen for everything Syracuse athletics.
Syracuse men's lacrosse had arguably maybe Gary Gates' best weekend ever as head coach.
The Ostrom Avenue podcast provides unique opinions plus exciting interviews from industry experts.
The voice of Syracuse men's lacrosse and Syracuse women's basketball as well. Tim Leonard, Javon Edmonds of Syracuse.com.
Check out weekly episodes and listen at WAER.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
The White House asked Congress to pull back federal funding for public media that had already been approved, and Congress has gone along. We want you to know that NPR and this station remain committed to informing the public, increasing your understanding of the world, and hopefully enriching your life in other ways. But without federal funding, we're relying on your support now more than ever. Please make your gift to this station today. Here's how, and thank you.
Visit WAER.org to get started today.
Nathan Jordan gives out directions with his left hand. Puts it on the deck for Starling. Let that half back to George in the corner for Kings. History. It goes. Nate Kings, his third three of the contest. That's a nice start to this second half.
Well, that's Travis Scott. If you want to be surrounded by any other rappers in Syracuse this evening, you'd have to make your way down to Orange Crate Brewing Company. We've received word we've got Polo G
Capilot
in the house. You sound like you're a lot more eager about it than me, Griffin, so I'll let you take the floor if you have any quick thoughts.
I thought, Adam Weitzman brought his days of bringing rappers to the Dome is long gone, but, good to see that Syracuse has some artists back in the 315. Post Malone is from the area. Maybe he can give some juice to the Syracuse basketball team. Polo G maybe as well.
I know he's a Dallas guy, though. Maybe more of an SMU. We've got our producer Adam talking about 2C, although I think he's not on great terms with the university after his decommitment. Regardless of any rap songs, Syracuse is clearly having a lot of fun. We hope that you can wait about 8 more minutes to go have your fun tonight in the community as we wrap up shop here up until 10 p.m. on the double overtime. We've got our final words. I will start. Milo left. Griffin.
We look alike, kind of.
Yeah, you both got darker brunette hair. Syracuse needs to lean into shooting the three-pointers because the defense has been good, but it's been spotty. There is a proven fact on this team right now. Syracuse has 2 really good three-point shooters in Nate Kings and Tyler Betsy. And let's be honest, we've talked about all night long how this season is probably a wash. Even if you go out, win a game like this tonight, you've got the 16th and 17th ranked teams in the country coming up in the next 2 games, both on the road, both notoriously tough places to play. Why not? Why not just let it fly from deep, become a high-scoring, high-flying offense? If the defense is going to be waxing and waning, so to speak, let the consistency reign from downtown. Get Nate Kings going, put him in a position to succeed. Let's see Tyler Betsy more and more off the bench, maybe become the true 6-man on this team, and see if Syracuse can shoot their way into March Madness. Why not? You're playing with house money right now.
Play some Missoula ball, shades of the Boston Celtics. Just put the 3 balls up.
I'm all for it.
Threes are more points than 2s, and if you make more 3s than your opponents, you're probably.
And you don't need to play good defense.
Well, I would say that. you could try. My final word is a little different. I'll go into it. This game, I don't think it changed anything. I think Coach Autry, he's been saying that change is needed. He's going to make changes. I think there's a bigger change that's going to be needed. I don't think it's going to be midseason. I just don't think. I think the window of Adrian Autry being the coach of this season has shrunk. Even with this game, I don't think this is necessarily positive win. I think it's a 14-point win that got Syracuse another ACC game on its slate in the W column. There's a lot left for Coach Autry to do to make me confident about his return. The whole point with Syracuse Athletic Director John Wildhack before the season was meaningful games in March. And Syracuse is not on the track to be playing meaningful games in March. Now, there's also a lot going on with the Syracuse University as a whole. You have a new chancellor coming in, which you never know what's going to shake that up. That could potentially lead to a new athletics administration, and you never know how that's going to lead going down the line. I just think where Syracuse basketball has been the past 5 years, that there is change needed for it to go up. And, it could be with Autry, but that window is slimming. Very heavy.
No question about it. And like you said, with, the NIL factor playing more and more of a role seemingly every single year, that leadership from the top matters more and more because you need that funding to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
There is zero question about that. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you are going to get good recruits on campus, you're going to have to pay them.
And Syracuse has 0 freshmen in their recruiting class next season.
Yeah, they're going to have to hit the portal hard. NIL would be a pretty big part of that, you would think. It's certainly not. This win, it's a small Band-Aid, but you're still far away from where you think you probably want to be in this season. And there is a very tough test coming up in 2 days against North Carolina as well. Syracuse goes on the road to take on the Tar Heels down in Chapel Hill, a chilly Chapel Hill. Excuse me.
Ooh. It's a chilly one
in
here.
In the 30s, it's extra chilly outside. The Orange tonight, though, do win 86-72 over the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. 13th win of the season and snaps a 4-game losing streak. Syracuse avoids its first 5-game losing streak since 1969. They're already setting records going back to the 60s in terms of their March Madness drought. Unfortunately, today they break that losing streak and get back in the win column. But they do have a chance to win 2 in a row. That comes against the Tar Heels, like I mentioned, on Monday night. That game is at 7 p.m. WAR's McClure Remodeling countdown to tip-off begins at 6:30, and the double overtime goes all the way up until 11 o'clock. We'll see. Does Donnie Freeman return to the starting lineup, or is he going to stay on the bench to start the game? That's really the question that everyone is going to be asking come Monday, and if he stays on the bench, does it continue to be effective like it was tonight? The hosts for the double overtime on Monday will be Jish Shikolsky and Gabe Perrin, 2 roommates. Hopefully they have a lot of fun on that one. But before that, we've got Syracuse men's lacrosse postseason. I mean, that's
it's
the bare minimum.
It's going to be an exciting year.
Bare minimum. Expect national championship. That's the expectation.
There we go.
As Joey Spallina hits his senior season on the Hill, Gary Gate and Joey Spallina together for the 4th year. And the Orange take on Boston University, number 17, BU, to start the year. It's one of the tougher schedules that the Orange have had in quite some time. McClure Remodeling countdown to face-off begins at 12:30. First game of the year. You won't want to miss it. And that's going to kick off what should be a really good lacrosse season. There's a lot to be excited about. That's all we got for now for tonight. I want to give out some thank yous before we wrap up shop. Our producer, Adam Gotkin, our engineer, Jason Stalakis, our reporter, of course, Milo Hoffman. Brought in some great insight, great conversation. And our WAER Sports Talk desk, Ryan Croak, Cole Purvis, Jake Bowen, doing all the work behind the scenes, even if they didn't get my first double overtime correct.
Oh.
I do forgive you, Cole. Had a great time tonight, though. My co-host, Griffin Bloomstein, was a pleasure to be alongside you, my friend. Syracuse wins this one tonight, 86-72. The Orange are back in action on Monday night. 7 o'clock tip against the Tar Heels. That's all we got for tonight. Have a good night, everyone.